no bar.
Damn.
We ride together, we get wet together.
Flexing by that. There's a difference between getting wet and swimming in the ocean.
All right, for the people that have low attention spans, 1,700 miles in a weekend with Super Chief Limited. So yeah, Super Chief did great. It was comfortable. What'd you expect? Windshield did great, but it could use some lowers to block some of the buffeting. My ass got numb around 200 miles in. I didn't care after 300 miles in. Suspension was cool until we got to Shreveport, Louisiana. The roads are trash there. Everywhere else was good. Infotainment was solid. Media control and ignoring phone calls was seamless. Navigation had a few bugs, but overall, solid. Got caught in lots of rain. Cruise control was my best friend. Average speed was 80-ish. Used tour mode on the highway. Got about 45 mpgs and averaged around 150 to the tank before I stopped. So yeah, Chief did great and it was comfortable. What'd you expect? In more detail, 1,700 miles in 4 days is a personal record, and I've never ridden that much in a day and a weekend, but this Super Chief Limited made that easy. And for reference, on this journey, I'm 5 feet 10 inches with a 28-inch inseam, and Indian Motorcycle gave me this Chief to ride for a few weeks, so I had it as a loaner. But fun fact, it's gone now, but till next time. Now before the trip started, we thought the biggest challenge would be the size difference in the tanks on Chief and Challenger, which was 4 gallons versus 6. But the bigger challenge was the physical aspect of riding this much in a day. We weren't physically prepared for this at all, but 1,700 miles is a drop in the bucket for some people, but for us, it was everything, and it was something that we both needed. We did enough riding on this bike where I could go on for probably hours about the little nuances about the bike, but I only have so much of your time, so I'll try to stick to some of the critical points on Chief. But the day of the trip, I packed Chief with a few things that I needed. And being that Chief was brand new, I didn't worry too much about mechanical tools other than tire plugs and a pump. But we put those things in the Challenger. Probably could have fit them in the Chief, but I didn't even try. What is up, everybody? It is around 4 a.m. on Thursday. We got the Super Chief loaded up, and I'm about to get ready to hit this road with my uncle on his Challenger, but I'm gonna show you something that I was not prepared for with this Super Chief. So Super Chief has these bags, right? They look like they have a good amount of space in them, even though they're perfectly tailored for this bike, and like the exhaust right there, the cutout there. But as you guys can see, there's not as much room as that's just not as much room as you think it is. On this side, it's the same thing. So here I got my rain pants because it's supposed to rain. My jacket is waterproof. There's my extra visor. I got an extra pair of shoes in there to walk around in if I don't want to be in my riding shoes. Let's see what else. And this has all of my clothes in it, from like just like an extra pair of pants, my underwear, my toiletries and stuff like that. But the bike is ready to go. I got my phone paired to it, and I'm about to get ready to suit up. But I got all of my camera gear in my Velamaki backpack. It does really well at keeping the pressure off my chest with that X clamp on the front. And yeah, we're about to get this started here shortly. The day we set out for the ride, it was still dark out, so that meant relying on the LED lights on Chief and Challenger to show the way. And surprisingly, the Pathfinder style Chief light works very, very well. No issues there, but we began to make our way west towards Texas. Nothing but open road and dewy, wet plains. But one thing I'm incredibly thankful for is not only this moment, but also the windshield on Chief. The windshield, of course, works great on Chief. I'm glad Indian actually sent me out a Chief with the windshield on it, but I wish I could have gotten one with the smaller windshield just to see if I could tell the difference. But that one to me is more, it's kind of a compromise between protection and the aesthetics. But the only thing I had a problem with on the windshield was the buffeting. And like I mentioned before, the fix for that is really having the soft lowers that go on the engine guards, because you get that buffeting right around your knees. And another way around that is to just keep your knees against the tank. But if you're like me and you like to stretch out, you kind of have to find a position that really works for you. But the thing that I don't know is if you're over 6 feet tall, around that 6'3" to 6'5" area, I don't know if you will actually still be in the pocket of the windshield, but you're just gonna have to try that out for yourself. But either way, I adapted to it, and over, I guess, the course of the trip, it really wasn't that bad. But on the first stretch of the road trip, everything was going well, but then I almost ran out of gas on the Chief. And again, a challenge on this trip was the 4-gallon tank on Chief versus 6 gallons on the Challenger. I remember doing one of those frantic biker waves like, yo, I need gas right now, because when you actually get to the low mile portion of the gauge when you're running out of gas, it has a pinch left to let you know that you have a little bit left. The yellow in that little pinch was gone. It was like a completely empty bar, and I was just thinking, man, he's gonna have to like leave, go find some gas, come back and get me, and then this is just gonna make the trip longer than it needs to be. But essentially all I did was just slow the bike down, get better gas mileage, and eventually we found a gas station.
Only getting $10 at this gas station. So how many miles you had left?
110.
110. Well, first
say we're gonna do 136.
well, I didn't run out, but I guess for a first range test, I got at least 150.
I don't think I had any gas left. I had less than 10 miles. I swear to God, I had less than 10 miles, guaranteed.
Hold up.
You think I'm joking? I'm so serious. That thing say it has no bar.
Damn.
That's why I was like, man, I got to find gas ASAP,
I
bucko.
thought so you'd be making to Meridian, man. I'm talking about dude, we probably.
Yeah, I was completely out of gas. It did skip a beat though. Now the bigger question in all of this is, how far can we get on a single tank of gas with Chief till E? We found that out at another time, but we set the range at 120 miles because that allowed us to cover some distance and makes it where I don't have to worry about running out of gas, and also we can take some rest and not feel worn out when we get to our destination. And I know what some of y'all are thinking, 120 miles, that's it, before you stop? I know, give us a break, people. We can do more, but give us a break.
All of you did that job.
Alright folks, we just stopped at Arby's to grab a bite to eat. Actually, I almost ran out of gas on the Chief. I got it right at 150 miles before I stopped when we finally found a gas station. The range needle was on 0 or low, where the little range bar ran out. It was completely empty, and it was like that for, I know it, every bit of at least 10 miles. So 150 miles, I'm sure I could have gotten better, but it all depends on your throttle, how fast you're going. But I had it set to mostly 80, and I was riding in tour mode. So yeah, we got lucky, but we were only 8 miles from the Mississippi line at the gas station where we were gonna stop, but we went ahead and stopped because I didn't want to risk it. But yeah, so far so good. But eat a little bit and get back on the road. So yeah.
You got this thing. Oh, you gotta take the side panels off to do that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Jared is about to tie his little extra seat cushion down that he didn't do before. It's simple, but makes the ride better.
Now, gas mileage was the big mystery, but suspension, that caught me by surprise. So, Chief has 3 inches of rear travel, which is the same as Scout, with Scout Bobber having 2 inches of rear travel, but they're all still less than the bigger touring lineup. And on most bumps, that's not a problem. Until you get to Shreveport, Louisiana, it becomes very noticeable. Listen, if you really want to test out a motorcycle suspension, take it to Shreveport, Louisiana. You will get all the data that you need. Outside of like a manufacturer's test, if you want a real world test, take it to Shreveport, Louisiana. The roads are awful. They're awful.
But this is around the time things got a little ugly. We knew that there was rain possible because there was a tropical storm in the Texas area, but we didn't swap to our rain gear. We figured, we just push through and it'll just dry off.
Now, some of this was a mistake, but I was in the mood for the adventure, but we knew the rain was going to be there. We had a tropical storm in Dallas that weekend, but the windshield on Chief obviously made riding in the rain easier. But like I said before, riding the Chief in wet weather, it's a stable bike, especially with those Pirelli tires, and then you can use tour mode. All of this stuff combined, it just made kind of riding in the rain a breeze, but not having rain gear, not being prepared was a mistake. But like I said, I was in the mood for the adventure.
But this little bit of rain was the warm up for the rest of the weekend. I haven't talked about comfort yet, and overall, Chief handled that well. Of course, as expected. But around 200 miles into the trip, I started to get fatigued and lower numbness. Super Chief comes with Indian's comfort seat, which I think is really good for a stock seat. But if you have a weird pressure point on your tailbone, you might want to test one out before you spend the extra money on it.
But around 100 to 150 miles is when I get fatigued on most bikes. I get like shoulder blade fatigue, or if I don't have a windshield, like my neck is a little sore. But obviously Chief had the windshield. But speaking of that, I found that stretching out on the floorboards, basically putting your feet like on the end of, not necessarily flat foot, but I like to stick my feet kind of on the edge. That was the sweet spot for me for comfort, especially with the wind turbulence. I kind of like put my foot out and I can put my hand by the tank to kind of block some of that. And of course with cruise control, it made a lot of this easier.
But between using cruise control and the touring power mode, I was in pure comfort with the capabilities that Super Chief provided. It wasn't too aggressive on the throttle, meaning I got good gas mileage and a pleasing ride. And cruise control, well, every bike needs cruise control, because why not? We need cruise control, people. And the whole idea of having a weekend mini touring bike is strong with Chief, and it was on full display on this ride. And I think it'll satisfy that itch that a lot of you may currently have. Yes, I know you have that itch.
And at another rest stop, we finally meet our special guest, the Victory Magnum, aka Big Cheeto. That's what it's about, folks. Motorcycles and camaraderie.
All right, folks, at this point, we have logged almost 500 miles, and we picked up another rider. There's James with the orange peel. He met us here in somewhere right outside, Shreveport, right at the Texas line. And we're gonna grab us a little bite to eat, and we're gonna carry on into Texas. So, good stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna get rain on anyway. Who do you want to see wet?
Bro, we're gonna get wet regardless.
Regardless. Bro, you gonna be
We all have gotten wet, and we all we ride together, we get wet together.
There's a difference between getting wet and swimming in the ocean. I was swimming in the ocean. Y'all got wet. That's two different shit.
Oh God. All right, folks, so we just got something to eat, and now we're about to all link up and ride towards Texas. Well, Grand Prairie, right? Anyway, Texas. Riding to Texas.
In Dallas, though.
In Dallas? Oh, sweet. Okay.
I should be unflexible like that.
Remember when I said earlier that the rain, that was a warm up? Oh yeah, this was the real deal. Now we hoped the rain would hold off, but in the distance, that didn't look likely. But I was so in the mood. We could only press forward and accept whatever fate we had coming, which of course we knew was more rain.
Yo, listen, this time it got bad. Like, it got really bad, and it's probably stupidity in hindsight, but it's an experience. I was in the mood for the adventure. It's an experience, that's all I can say.
I should have put them damn pants on. But the windshield made this so much easier, but eventually we just had to slow it down because we could barely see anything. Eventually, we make it out of hell, and then it's now just Challenger, Victory Magnum, and Super Chief Limited with clear skies and a welcoming breeze. And eventually, we make it to Fort Worth and our home for the next few days.
And at this point, we're looking at about 650 or so odd miles before we finally got into Fort Worth and settled in. And I felt like I could have kept going. To be honest, we probably could have done an unofficial iron, but yeah, Chief held its own, especially with the bigger touring bikes. It did the job.
What's up? So, I got a question for you.
Question for me? Yeah. What you got a question for me?
How does it feel to finally enjoy cruise control on a long trip?
Wow. You know what? It's pretty doggone amazing because the whole time I was thinking, dang, I wish I had this on my 109. Cause I was just sitting there like this, like I literally had the cruise control.
Yeah.
I had one foot kicked out and I was like this, just like this the whole time.
All I could think.
Oh, I had my arms over, like kicked out, like I was kicked out like this.
Yeah, ain't got out on 109.
Every bike needs cruise control.
I mean, cool bike. I mean, don't get me wrong, Indian. I ain't gonna lie, that tank's small, but what do I know? Other than that was a pretty good bike, huh?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And folks, you can't see me, but we are finally at our place of stay, our home away from home. And I could say today was life-changing for me. My longest ride I've ever done. We got the orange Victory Magnum, the Challenger, and of course the Chief. Today we logged right at, I think, a little over 650 miles today. James met up with us a little over halfway there and rode in with us. He rode in from Austin, so he has his own, I think, 400 miles, but round trip from Austin to Shreveport, from Shreveport back to Dallas. So, yeah, it was just an awesome experience. The Chief did so well. The gas range was a little weird. We started off a little rocky, like 140, 150. We almost ran out of gas, and then the next time it was like 160-ish. Then the next time it was like 170. So, ooh, takes a little bit. I'm still trying to figure. That dog threw me off, but I'm still trying to figure it out, Chief and everything. But I must say, 650 miles, and I still felt like I could still keep going. And I say that because, you know, I did find a little fatigue in the initial stages around 250 miles, but once I finally got it dialed in, how to find comfort on it, the way I like to see it, like on the 109. Next thing you know, those other 400 miles, after taking a few breaks and eating and resting and not really rushing through it, man, Chief did it, man. So, yeah, that windshield's awesome. But, yeah, there's still a lot to talk about. But right now I'm going to get my stuff out the saddlebags, and we're going to rest a bit, and we're going to go have a night on the town before tomorrow, which is at Friday. Well, as of now anyway, but, yeah. I'm just unhook these. Let me just unhook these. On both of that from the back. And then put that to the side, the lift. And then everything's neatly packaged. And maybe just, you know, it's a little tight. I'm not gonna lie. It's a little tight because you gotta strategically pack stuff. Come on. It's hooked in. There we go. Made that really tight. But yeah. On this side, I've already unhooked one of these. Got my visor, my rain suit, and a waterproof bag. So probably gonna leave this in here, but yeah, these are the bikes, and good to go.
But listen, we were getting settled into our temporary home, but we were all just wet, just wet, but we were happy. But we used a hairdryer to dry our boots, along with just sitting them outside.
We made it, even though we were dripping wet, using one hairdryer to dry our gear and using the dryer that was there for the gear that we could throw in there. We all felt accomplished, and for me, definitely I felt really accomplished on getting there with no time constraints, not having to rush to get there, and riding with my uncle on his Challenger, and then meeting up with family, James on his Victory Magnum. It was just great to, you know, crush those miles together, and it has me excited for more adventures on two wheels. I'm pumped.
Later that night, we took the bikes out for a night ride on the town with more wind therapy and food, and since we were in town, I wasn't too worried about gas mileage, so sport mode it is.
So here's my quick word on Thunderstroke. I know a lot of you are kind of on the fence about an air-cooled motor when you're looking at a radiator-based motor. like Scout or Power Plus. Listen, torque in the right hands makes the difference up for not having a top end. Not necessarily in a quarter mile, but when you're doing like stoplight pulls, having fun with your friends, really it really comes down to the rider, but it could also keep you from getting some tickets. But I had the Thunderstroke in the Chief, and I was riding up beside Challenger, Victory Magnum, and also a Scout while in Dallas. And listen, Chief held its own. I'm just gonna tell you, like it was showing out. But I've had Thunderstroke in really harsh temperatures. I'm talking like 125 degrees in the Mojave Desert, and I had that alongside a Road Glide 114, and it was so hot that splitting lanes wasn't fast enough, and we had to hit the shoulder to just avoid all that heat from the standing traffic. So even in those environments, I had absolutely no issues with a Thunderstroke. But my point is these motors are a lot more reliable than they were the past few years. So, you know, give them a little bit more credit. But even if it's still a problem and you're just kind of sold on not having an air-cooled motor, then you're just gonna have to wait for Power Plus.
But the next day we linked up with another special guest and local to the big Texas area, and that was Orlando with his now Indian vintage Dark Horse. Beautiful machine. But we eventually hit up Moto Fest for media day to check out everything before the crowds, and also riding a bike that many of you have asked me about. More on that later as well. But trying on some jackets and some airbag systems, seeing Carrie Hart's Challenger and Indian Chief with the relocated screen, and of course seeing some of y'all pretty faces.
On the way back, we hit a nasty patch of just rain. And those Amazon pants that I bought for $15, nope, drenched.
Got caught in traffic, hit the shoulder, found a really good puddle to play in with Chief. You know, just to sidetrack a little bit, playing in the rain in bikes is really fun, but yo, it gets really sketchy, especially when you get splashed by another car. Splashed myself pretty good, but at this point, we were all just fed up and done with riding unless I was riding back home. Like, I was completely just done. But again, Chief performed beautifully the whole time and kept everything in the saddlebags dry. I got no complaints. Now, up until this point, I really didn't use the navigation piece of the infotainment system. And in hindsight, I didn't actually use it at all really in Arizona versus just leaving it on. But in Dallas, I kind of just left it on, at least going towards Dallas, and flipped through the gauges for the speed/gas portions, and everything worked flawlessly. But then when I started to actually use it, things started to get a bit weird. The navigation piece somehow found bugs, and sometimes the maps just would not load. It would drop routes, not update a route I'm actively on, and sometimes the location arrow would just spin the whole time I'm trying to follow.
So with a quick restart, it's good to go. I don't know if it was because the color was changing from the clear to the dark, but it just, for some reason, it just, computers.
That sounds like a lot of problems, but these were kind of like stacked anomalies. When it worked, it was beautiful, y'all. I'm just gonna tell you, I wouldn't want to ride without it. But when it didn't work,
Dude, this thing is completely unresponsive. I mean, look, it's just not changing. I'm gonna restart the bike.
But coming from a software background, I get it. These things happen, but I got very frustrated as the bugs sometimes happen in critical moments, like sitting under an underpass, trying to find out where the heck you're supposed to go, but your navigation isn't working. But things like this happen, and they can be fixed. But my uncle's Challenger's ride command worked flawlessly, so that let me know that a simple update can fix these things. And of course, Indian is aware of it, and that's all that matters. But there were two other features, or lack of features, that annoyed me just a bit. While you're active on a route, you can't actually search for a gas station, so you actually have to end your route and then search. Why would you want to do this? Example, I'm following the GPS and then I have to stop for gas. Rather than end my route, I wanted to add a stop in the route that I'm currently on. So I had to stop my route and then make the new route the gas station. Also, I couldn't find a way to avoid the toll roads. There are a lot of those in Texas. I could have overlooked the interface, but I couldn't find out how to do that anywhere on the device. But again, minor annoyances that can be fixed with software. And I'm pretty sure you can do all of this on the bigger ride command, so I'm pretty sure it's just a moment of time before Indian adds these features.
What is up, you beautiful people? We are wrapping up our stay here in Texas. Getting ready to go grab something to eat and hop back on the bikes. And we're gonna head back to Alabama. It's gonna be about 700 miles, but I can tell you guys, this bike has been phenomenal, but there have been a little quirks that I found, mostly with the navigation system. But overall, it's been a pleasurable experience. So, yeah, I would definitely do this trip again with the bike the exact same way. Learned a lot about the saddlebags. They were not as big as I thought they were, as far as like being able to get stuff in, not necessarily the overall size, but it's kind of hard to fit stuff in there. But learned a lot. The windshield rocks, the floorboard rocks, this bike rocks. So, yeah, I'm very pleased with it.
All that aside, once we said "I'll see you later" to everyone, we made our trip back to Alabama with a lot less rain. In fact, I don't actually recall having any rain. But this was that bittersweet moment on Riding Chief. We finally had beautiful weather on a great weekend touring bike, only this time I was headed home. But there was lots of late but smooth night riding with Chief and Challenger lighting the way, but I didn't have a doubt that the Pathfinder light on Chief was enough.
But finally, after getting home after a long ride, I finally pulled Chief in for the night, and I made sure to give my #1 supporter and my best friend a lovely hug. She was waiting for Chief and I to get home, and that really sealed the weekend for me. It felt good. That the trip happened and everybody got home safe. And I got Indian's bike back safe.
But it was a fantastic weekend with Chief. We rode a lot, I learned a lot, especially about myself, and realized just how in reach a weekend trip can be for a lot of us. And motorcycles like Chief make it easier and takes a lot of the guesswork out. You know, saddlebags, windshield, cruise control, floorboards, etc. It's a great weekend touring bike that I think a lot of you would enjoy for your own needs. So, hey yo, go satisfy that itch. Again, thank you to Indian for that experience. And I'm not sure what else to say about Chief other than for you all to get out and ride one. Even if you don't buy it, ride it and form your own opinion and have some fun. But until next time, thanks for watching as always. I'll catch y'all in the very near next one.